love lives here.
This year here at Centers for Spiritual Living, we are working with the theme of timeless wisdom, evolutionary vision. And the month's theme is breathe in the view. So how appropriate that we were talking about deeper I surrender, and all that I need to do is just breathe. I don't need to do anything but just breathe, and breathe in the beauty, breathe in the possibility, breathe in spirit, breathe out spirit, breathe in love, breathe out love. And see rightly to see justly. And so today we are talking about seeing beauty and feeling grace. And we're going to do this in an interesting way here, I think, hopefully. We'll see. We're going to talk about visualization. And if you know me, talking about visualization is an interesting thing, because I don't usually talk about visualization. I talk about visioning. And there's a big difference between the two, as we shall see. But there is that difference. So what I want to start off with sharing with you is that George Bernard Shaw wrote this. 54, and then all of a sudden it's like, God has given us a world that nothing but our own folly keeps from being a paradise. God has given us a world that nothing but our own folly keeps from being a paradise. And then Francis Bacon said, beauty itself is the sensible image of the infinite. Beauty itself is the sensible image of the infinite. And when I look at these, I was like, sensible image, well, is it like, well, of course, that makes sense. It's the sensible image, as opposed to the unsensible one, right? Or the unreasonable one, right? And as I was looking at it further, it's like beauty is the sensible. We can sense it. Beauty is that sensible image of the divine. In other words, we have the invitation to see the beauty, to see it with our eyes, and to experience it with our body, and to experience it through taste and touch and scent and hearing. That we have this ability to sense the beauty, sensible, sensibility. We have the ability to sense the beauty, to sense the divine. That's what beauty is that it is that image of the divine, or that, and for lack of a better image, that idea of the divine, or that experience of the divine that we can sense and touch and cozy up to and just wrap our arms around in a great big hug, whether it's like this hug or just the internal yummy deliciousness, right? Which is another way that we could also say grace. And so grace then is that experience of that beauty that we were just talking about. That grace is like when we were talking about last week, when I had you look up and out the window and then add gratitude to that looking up, right? And then that hushed sense that came over the room, that sense of bliss, that sense of joy, that sense of peace, that sense of deep groundedness, that sense of another word for that sense, another word for that feeling is grace. It's grace. And so Ernest Holmes writes about grace in the back of the Science of Mind and the glossary there. He says, grace is the givingness of spirit to its creation. Grace is the givingness of spirit to its creation. The logical result of the correct acceptance of life and a correct relationship to spirit. So grace is not something that is that we beg for or plead for or try to get. It's not some special favor that's bestowed upon us by some capricious God that's like, Jeannie, I like you today, so boom, magic wand, there you are, right? You have grace today, right? Grace is the givingness. It's the ever-givingness of Spirit, which that ever-givingness of Spirit is another way that Ernest Holmes defines love. So grace is synonymous with love, that grace is that givingness of Spirit, and the way that we experience grace, the way that we receive grace, if you will, is by being in correct acceptance of life itself, and also being in a correct relationship to and with the divine, to and with Spirit. So what is a correct relationship? Is there a wrong relationship? There's not good and bad, right? So there can't be a wrong relationship. Could there be a better relationship, perhaps? Could there be a relationship that we're more aware of, that we're more conscious of, that we're more part of, or that we're more actively participating in, that we're more intentional about? Yes, absolutely. And so when we bring our consciousness, when we bring our awareness to our oneness, rather than separation, rather than duality, we bring ourselves into right relationship, into the correct relationship with Spirit, into the correct relationship with vision, into the correct relationship with a high idea. We bring ourselves into alignment with that. And when we bring ourselves into alignment with that, then what we experience is the grace of the divine, the grace of God. Because we have aligned ourselves with that. Yes? Yeah. And then what does that feel like when we're in alignment? What does it feel like when you're in alignment? Feels awesome, right? Easy, yeah. Feels awesome, feels great, feels easy. And there's more freedom of movement, perhaps. If you think of like your spine being in alignment, you go to the chiropractor and you get an adjustment, right? And it's all of a sudden like, oh, I'm standing a little taller. I have a little bit more freedom in my movement, right? That there's that sense of freedom. There's that sense of expansion. There's that sense of possibility, yes? So, visualization, right? Today, we're not talking about visualization in its traditional, the way we talk about visualization, all right? Part of the way that we usually talk about visualization is we create an image in our mind's eye, and we focus on that image, and with the intention of having that image come to us, or us pulling that image to us, right? That we have this intention of being a magnet and pulling it in, right? But it's a mental picture, it's a mental idea, right? And there are tools, yes, that we call vision boards, that aren't really vision boards, but in the sense of visioning, but vision boards, or another word for that is treasure mapping, right? Eric Butterworth says, it's like cutting out pictures out of magazines and sticking it on a poster board, and then, subconsciously drawing trying to subconsciously draw this to you, right? That treasure mapping, that's visualizing from that perspective. And even Ernest Holmes says that visualizing is good as far as it goes, but it is a form of limitation. And why is it a form of limitation? Because it starts in lack. You're seeing something, you're trying to attract something to you that you perceive that you don't already have. So what is the actual vibrational match? What is the actual belief? I don't have it. And so we're starting then from the place of I don't have rather than I have, and then trying to attract that which we don't have to us. But what is the vibrational match? I don't have it. Right? And so it is a form of limitation as well, in that we are thinking that this is the thing that we need to have, or this is the idea that we need to pursue, or this is the way that it needs to be, that we have already formulated our own opinion about it. And so our opinion is limited to our own experience, or to the experience of those around us, perhaps, right? The influence of those around us. But our opinion or our idea, our solution is already limited, because It's just coming from our own direct experience, right? So it comes from a place of lack. But Eric Butterworth, in his spiritual economics book that we've been working with at the practitioners have been working with, and the core council and the finance committee, we met this weekend and we had a wonderful workshop facilitated by Shawnee. Thank you very much, Shawnee. And ministerial intern, yeah, give it up for Shawnee. It's good. And ministerial intern, Sanja Prince, also, yes. And so we were working with the book Spiritual Economics. And in Spiritual Economics, Eric Butterworth spends an entire chapter on visualization. And some of it feels a little bit like what we were just talking about, but he's actually like, no, he's very firm about, we're not approaching this from lack. So he defines visualization in a much different way. He defines visualization as seeing from a consciousness of the ever-present substance. That using our sight, using that idea of visualization, seeing from a place of consciousness of the ever-present substance. And what is the ever-present substance, my beloveds? Spirit, love, it's all synonymous, right? Is that ever-present substance, because substance means to stand under, stand behind, to stand under something, to be the foundation of, to be the essence of. So what is substance? Substance is spirit, because what do we know? Spirit is all that there is, right? So what he's inviting us to do with this idea of visualization is he is inviting us to see from the consciousness that there is the ever-present spirit, ever-present substance, ever-present life, ever-present abundance, ever-present peace, ever-present joy, ever-present divine, to see from that viewpoint, to see through those eyes, because then when we see through those eyes, what is it that we're seeing? We're seeing beauty everywhere. And so then we're seeing beauty because we're seeing past the superficial, we're seeing past the condition, because what he goes on to say is that we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are, right? And if we see things as we are, who are we? Spirit. So then how are we called to see things? As spirit, right? And if we are called to see things as spirit, then we're called to see things through the lens or through the eyes of beauty, through the eyes of perfection, through the eyes of wholeness. So it is not discounting what's happening or what's going on. The opportunity is to remind ourselves, as we talked about last week, the opportunity is to remind ourselves of who we are and then to see rightly. Rather than trying to set the problem straight or set the problem right, we have the opportunity to set a problem or to see a problem rightly, to see past the problem, to see through the problem, to turn within, go within, to seek the solution, because where do all the answers lie? The answers lie in the infinite mind of the divine. The answers lie in infinite consciousness. The answers lie in the consciousness of wisdom, of divine wisdom, of love, intelligence. That is where the answers lie. That's where the answers are. And so we may be experiencing problems or challenges or what have you on this plane of existence, and they may have a solution, but as Einstein says, you can't change a problem or you can't change anything with the same level of consciousness that created it. So we have to turn within and go within and seek the wisdom within, seek the spirit within, seek that small, still voice that knows all, that is the omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent wisdom. Right? That's where we have the opportunity to go. And how do we do that? Visioning, right? We do that through visioning. We do that through spiritual discernment. Visioning, the practice that we talk about, the practice that we practice, not just talk about, of closing our eyes, turning within, and asking the question of spirit. What is spirit's highest idea of itself as my life? What is spirit's highest idea of itself as this situation that I am facing, this challenge that I'm facing? What is spirit's highest idea? And we turn within and we listen to what spirit would reveal to us. We listen to what that divine wisdom that we are, that is imbued in each one of us, that we have access to. Listen to the answer there, and then have the opportunity to embrace what Spirit says to embrace, meaning to come into alignment by opening up and opening out a possibility, to invite the possibility in, to release those things that no longer serve us, those things that are in our way. That is where the work is that opening up and listening and availing ourselves of the wisdom, then receiving that which we are called to move toward, and release that which we are called to let go of. And in so doing, we receive this high idea, and we come into alignment with, correct relationship with the high idea, with Spirit. And then we experience living by grace. So we're seeing the beauty, and we're feeling and living the grace. Yes? So how do these two ideas work together, visualization and visioning? How can these work together? The visualization, as Butterworth calls it. So if we open up to Spirit through visioning, truth is revealed through visioning, through contemplative meditation. Truth is revealed. The truth of the matter, the real truth, the real substance is revealed, yes? And so the real substance, the real truth of the matter is revealed. So we are receiving that. So that is a divine download, if you will. That which we receive, that vision, that high idea that we receive, then we can use the faculty of our individualized mind, the faculty of our individualized sight, of seeing correctly, of seeing beauty. We can use that faculty to create a spiritual prototype, to create that vision or that image that we see, and then we can impress that vision through visualization of the more traditional method of visualization or prayer or spiritual mind treatment. We can impress the download back into the creative medium of Spirit, which then takes that and then does what with it? Makes it happen. That makes sense? So if you look at the V back up there, right? You've got the involution and then the evolution. Involution, evolution. Involution meaning that we have Spirit revealing itself, Spirit revealing the high idea, Spirit revealing the high idea, us then using our faculties to create a spiritual prototype, to create that image of what this high idea might look like in our lives, because it's been revealed first from Spirit. We're not thinking it up. We're not trying to find a solution. We're not trying to make something or create something. We're taking that which we've already received, and then we are then returning it in consciousness to Spirit, giving it back, giving it over, using our faculties, if you will, using that visualization, using spiritual mind treatment, using those tools to return it to spirit in the creative process. And then what does spirit then do with that? It then manifests that. It then demonstrates that. It is then that the vision, the high idea, is then fulfilled. How? Through us. Because we have aligned ourselves, we've caught the high idea, and then we've returned the high idea to spirit through that image. So Troward talks about it like this in terms of visualization. Having seen and felt the end, you have willed the means to its realization. So having conceived and felt deeply, we create the condition for its inevitability. And Troward calls this the law of reciprocity, that we receive and that we give. So that we receive from spirit and we give it back to spirit. It's not just the law of reciprocity of, I give Shawnee something, and then, later on, Shawnee gives me something, and then I give Jabel something, and then later on, Jabel gives me something, or Greg gives me something, and later on, I give Greg something. It's not that law of reciprocity. It's not that law of transaction. It is receiving spirit and then returning to spirit. Yeah. And that is the creative process from an elevated place of consciousness. That is the creative process. It's the same creative process that we've talked about, seed, soil, and plant. But rather than us deciding, you know what, today I'm going to plant tomatoes in my garden, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, I'd like to have a garden. So let me turn within and let me seek wise counsel. Let me seek guidance as to what might best grow in my garden and what best I might enjoy the fruits of. And then it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Tomatoes would be good. So would some squash, and so would some zucchini, and maybe a few pumpkins for Halloween. That would be all good. And maybe a few cucumbers or something. Make a nice salad. All right. And that's what we receive. And then that's what we plant. Rather than trying to dictate a solution, rather than trying to dictate the how or dictate the what, we're receiving the what and we're returning the what to spirit, for spirit to produce the how, then for spirit to produce the what. How y'all doing with this? Because this is taking our teaching to the next level. You understand that? This is elevating it. This is taking it to the next step above. It's not about like change your think and change your life. It is about that too, right? But it's stepping it up. It's stepping it beyond that. That we are living in a place of receptivity of spirit. We are seeing the beauty. We are seeing as spirit sees. We are receiving from spirit, that we're living in that place of receptivity, and then we're living in that place of generosity, that place of giving it back to spirit, for spirit to handle, for spirit to take care of, trusting and having faith that the law works, that spirit works. Something that Butterworth says in this book that I absolutely loved, and it was like, I've read this book so many times, right? It's just like we've read Science of Mind so many times, or, Practicing the Presence by Goldsmith so many times, or what have you, that we've read it and read it and read it and read it, read it. And every time we read it, it's like, wow, he never said that before, or she never wrote that before, right? I never saw that before. So here was this thing. Goldsmith, and not Goldsmith, Butterworth. They're both mystics. I keep messing them up. But Butterworth says, and it's so tiny, but it was like, bam, bam. Faith is our consent. Faith is our consent. Our faith is our saying yes to the bounty of Spirit. Our faith is saying yes to the high idea of Spirit, to the vision of Spirit. It is saying yes. Faith is our consent. Faith is saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to live this. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to plug into the electricity, and I'm going to turn it on, and there it is, right? Faith is that confidence. It's the consent. It's the saying yes. It's saying yes, Spirit. Yes, God. And he also then says that faith isn't believing in something. Faith is turning something on. Just like flipping on a light switch. That is faith. How audacious and bold, right? I'm just going to go over there like, boop. And there's an expectancy, right? That those lights are going to come right on. There's just an expectancy. There's not a like, I wonder what happens if I do this, right? I wonder if the lights are going to come on, right? It's not about that. It's like walking over and just turn it on. Boop. Turning on the water faucet. Boop. Right? So that faith is that expectancy. Faith is turning something on. I just love that. Faith is saying yes and turning Spirit on. Love it. Sexy. Faith. So it is that faith that then after we've received from Spirit and we've returned it to Spirit, it is that faith that activates it. It's that faith that says yes. It's that faith that claims it. It's that faith that is our consent to live in right relationship with, right relationship to the presence, the ever-present substance, and knowing that all is truly well. And so when we see with beauty, we experience grace. And faith is our yes. So it is. I invite our practitioners and our core council to please stand and surround the sanctuary. Beauty, beauty, beauty. All right. So these beloveds are in prayer daily for this beloved community, Riverside Center for Spiritual Living, and for each and every one of you. And so I invite you to avail yourselves of them immediately following the service in the prayer room for prayer, for personal prayer. So let's just come together in consciousness now, shall we? Recognizing that there is just this one infinite, eternal, luscious, delicious beauty that simply is all that there is. This beauty is exquisite, magnificent, absolute perfection. This beauty brought forth all of creation, all of life in its perfect image, in its likeness. Therefore, all of life, all of creation is an expression of this one beauty, this one perfection, this one harmony. And I recognize that this beauty is love, is life, is light, is power, is passion, is joy, is peace. This beauty is truly all that there is. There can be nothing but beauty. And so I recognize and I awaken to this realization that I am one with this one. I am one with this beauty, that this beauty is the perfection and wholeness and absolute substance, the very essence of who I am. It is ever present through me, expressing as my life, in my life. And as I know that this is true of me, I know that this is true of all of life, of all of creation, of each one gathered here, whether online, now or later, or gathered here in the sanctuary. that beauty is the truth, perfection is the truth, love is the truth, the very essence of who each one is, the very substance of life itself. And so I speak my word here and now. I speak my word for this beloved community, Riverside Center for Spiritual Living. Recognizing that God's grace is our sufficiency in all things, because we come into alignment with the one, with the perfection, with the high idea, with the vision itself. We come into alignment with that. We say yes to that. We have faith in that. We know, and so we simply say yes, and we give our consent to living, being, and having our living, moving, being, and having our life in this one, expressing as this one. We say yes to the perfection and to the beauty. We say yes to the wholeness. We say yes to the peace. We say yes to the divine wisdom, the solutions, the answers, the freedom, the wholeness, the joy that simply is all that there is. We say yes to it. We give our consent to that, knowing that it is revealing itself through us always. We make ourselves available to it. We listen to the still small voice. We listen to the divine wisdom that is forever present within us, that is omnipresent. We listen to that knowledge, that wisdom that is omniscient, that is all-knowing. We listen to that wisdom that is omnipotent, all-powerful, and that we know that as we stand in unity, in cohesion, in oneness, in conscious awareness with our oneness with this one, that no thing could oppose us. No thing could stand in the way. No thing could ever pose an obstacle. No thing could ever stand opposed to the divine life, the one life unfolding perfectly, magnificently, gorgeously as each one of us and as our beloved community. And so we see with beauty and we experience grace, recognizing that we bring ourselves into alignment in this moment, and in every moment we return to our alignment with the one, and we experience grace, that ineffable experience of love, of light, of peace. And we are unlimited. There is no limit in spirit, and we are spirit manifest, so therefore there is no limit for us. We simply tap in and listen and receive, and then place this back into law, place this back into spirit, give it back over to spirit, surrender it to spirit. And with full faith and confidence, we say yes. And so I give thanks for the fulfillment of the high idea. I give thanks for what is already and what is yet to be, knowing that it is already done and complete in the mind of God. So I simply allow it to be so, and together we affirm, and so it is.
Love